Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. Have you ever had a client that wanted to just gain lean body mass, or you yourself just wanting to gain muscle? Now, again, for the most part, and it makes sense, the average client that comes into a personal trainer is generally looking to do what? Burn body fat, lose body fat. They'll say they want to lose weight, and that is the vast majority of folks. Now there are folks that will tell you, I want to lose weight, of course, but I want to get toned up as well. So that leads us to the question of what exactly does it mean when somebody says they want to get toned, they want to get firm. Essentially, they're saying they want to maintain or increase lean body mass. So the question that doesn't always come up, and there are folks out there that do ask it for themselves generally or for some clients, is how do you gain just lean body mass? And you may think, well, that's easy. Just eat more protein, eat more calories, whatever the case is. Not as easy. So in this video, I want to kind of help you to understand some of the more general ways that you dealing with that type of question or that type of client. Now, obviously, or I would say obviously, the type of individual that's saying to you, the trainer, "Hey, I just want to gain lean body mass," might be somebody young, a guy, for instance, that's already lean. I say young, I mean in their late teens, early 20s, perhaps even, and they've got no body fat, but they want to get bigger and they want to, gain more muscle. And that's the type of individual that would say, I don't want to lose any body fat because they're already probably 12% body fat or something like that. They just want to add lean body mass. And so there's small percentage of individuals that will basically say or come in and ask you, how do I just gain muscle? I just want to gain muscle, and they're not worried about lean body mass. Remember, once again, the vast majority of your paying clients are going to be individuals, right? Generally, depending on where you're at and your branding, what your type of folks you're trying to train, 30s, 40s, 50s, and older. Generally, they're going to want to lose body fat, increase endurance, energy, things like that. And so the idea that they just want to gain lean body mass might not be as apparent. So, how do you do it? Well, you can't just answer the question, do A, B, C, and or D. That's not how this works. One of the main factors you have to consider when you're talking about just gaining lean body mass is what their starting body fat is. And that makes a huge difference. Somebody that is starting at a significantly high body fat level that essentially says, I just want to gain muscle. My first question is, what? Are you sure? I mean, how about we lose the body fat, hold on to the muscle you already have? And your appearance will change significantly. Again, generally, we're not seeing those type of people, but it is a body fat percentage issue that initiates how you're going to go about doing this. Now, I will say that one of the easiest things to do right off the bat is when they have, by the way, it's easier when they're already at a low body fat percentage, is you can essentially up their caloric intake, right? Maybe they're not eating as frequently enough, right? So if they're eating, and this is the art, the nutritional coaching that you're going to do with folks. If you got a kid that comes in or a young man that comes in, just as a for instance, and he eats twice a day, well, what are you going to do right off the bat? Obviously, at twice a day, I don't care if he's eating 1,000 calories at twice a day, which he's probably not. That's just not enough calories to allow for muscular hypertrophy, right? Anabolism. Generally, that's not going to occur. And I know the other thing you're probably thinking is just eat more protein. No, not necessarily. They might be getting enough, I don't know, enough protein, but in general, perhaps their BMR, their basal metabolic rate, is significantly high to where it's very difficult for them to hold on to any appreciable amount of muscle tissue because their body is catabolizing it. They simply don't eat enough calories, and then their body simply will catabolize lean body mass. So you've got to adjust caloric intake. But once again, we go by a standard. How many meals are you eating per day? In general, somebody trying to increase lean body mass that's already lean should be eating more meals per day. That has been the standard go-to. And I know there's folks out there that will say, well, not necessarily. It's not about calories. I don't understand what that means, but it is about calories and it is about the macros. And generally, in order to consume enough food, in order to do that, effectively without throwing off insulin production too much, you got to eat smaller multiple meals throughout the day. That's going to be step number one, is get the individual generally to eat more meals throughout the day. And that's going to generally elevate their total caloric need. So the total caloric intake. And so if you can figure out what their caloric need is, add a couple of hundred calories to that, you can begin this process of starting to sort of overcompensate and give them more calories than what they're taking in. Remember, you only need a couple of hundred or so calories to allow for ingested proteins to now not be used so much as fuel, but to be used in the anabolic activities related to muscle hypertrophy. So the general idea is you've got to satisfy caloric need, right? Basal metabolic needs before the muscle tissue under the proper resistance training. Stress will demand and actually use and accrue new muscle tissue, i.e., new myofilaments, right, from the proteins that are being consumed. So, yes, there is a hormonal component to this, of course. But the general simplest way to go about doing it is number one, how many meals are they eating per day? They're generally going to need to up the number of meals or increase meal frequency. And generally, they're going to have to consume more calories, but that is the standard equation. You're going to use the standard equations of basal metabolic rate plus activity level, right? And get sort of this standard caloric need that they have to maintain their body weight as it is. And then you're going to add a couple of hundred calories. I don't know if it's 200 or 300. A bigger individual that's lean is going to need more additional calories to compensate, right, for that increased need, right, for energy. That's going to allow for anabolism. Remember, anabolism or increasing muscular hypertrophy requires energy, right? It requires energy. And so you've got to get that in the form of obviously calories. Now, the question that I get always is, well, it should be carbohydrates or fat. My answer to that is, it doesn't really matter. I would stick with a standard ratio of, 40% of your calories from carbs, 30-30 protein and fat to start off with. And then, of course, you're monitoring the individual and seeing how much lean body mass they're actually accruing. That is the general overview. And you got to keep this in mind when you're dealing with individuals. Go by the basics first. Multiple meals throughout the day. Get the calories up a little bit higher than what their BMR plus activity level numbers show as a requirement on paper. And then start monitoring that. And they've got to train. And they got to train the right way in order for the proper accrual or increase in muscular hypertrophy before that's going to take place. And that's what you need to do first. Just leave me a note in that comment section. If you understood it, this makes sense to you. For some of you, I'm sure it makes a lot of sense. And I'm hoping that for those of you that did not know this, it is also helpful to you as well. So leave that in the comment section below and just let us know how we can be of assistance to you. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.